Hey.
Hello.
Hi, Chris.
Hey.
Hello.
Aha.
All of you.
I can hear you.
Christophe from Paris, France.
Welcome.
Good. Welcome.
Hi,
Hello.
Kurt.
Kurt. It's long time no see. How are you? I can't. You're muted.
Now.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Excellent.
All fine.
So how are you doing?
Perfect. Look
Good.
outside.
Oh, it's nice.
That looks good.
Nice. So enjoying some lovely weather, it looks like.
Well, there are some clouds, but there's also sun, yes.
Oh, very nice.
Hi, Peter.
Oh, hey, Peter. Oh, yeah, we can't hear you. I don't know if you can hear us. You're muted.
He's
I think,
muted, but I think
Google...
he doesn't hear us.
Okay.
Hey.
No, we're talking, but you're not picking it up.
But quite a fancy headset.
Yeah. It's a very...
He's listening for it. Yeah.
No, he's probably trying to find the right output for that one.
Yeah,
Oh, there you go.
Can you guys hear me?
Well, there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
Don't move.
still. Yeah, well, my for some reason this new machine is just insistent on every time I join any call selecting the wrong audio output, the wrong audio input. So it's just every time I join a call, it's just I've got to go into the audio settings and select.
That was like our work calls for a while when I was doing the Windows stuff, and every time I
Oh,
come to a
yeah.
call, Dimitar's like, wrong mic, like immediately.
And because
Yes.
you are like, I'm over here, can you hear me?
Yeah, that's kind of frustrating.
Yeah.
I need to get a sign, and it just has a picture of Leonard Pottering on it that I just hold up in a video call.
We need signs like Bugs Bunny when he's communicating, so we can tell each other what's
Yeah.
going wrong.
Yeah.
Or
I need to learn sign language.
Hey, Jennifer.
Oh, Jennifer.
Vienna.
Morning.
Hey.
Morning.
Nice to see you again.
Nice to see you.
Yeah. Let's just give it a few more minutes for more people to come in before we start.
We got big brains in the house today, huh?
Yeah. Dimitar and Peter are both here, so it's getting a pretty full group. Instead of just me and Cecille against the whole world, like more even odds this time. So there's a note taker thing in here, but this we're gonna take a video with this, and if anybody needs a segment like pulled out, we can chop things up before we post to YouTube if anybody needs. So feel free to speak freely, but if you have a segment you want pulled out, just let us know. Or
just to be clear, pulled out as in like if someone is picking their nose on stream and they don't want that on YouTube, they can ask us to click edit that out. Okay.
Yeah, if you want a segment clipped out, or if you just want some audio like a word covered up in a sentence or something, we can do that. We can just mask it. I think last time we had a couple of like personal details go out, and so we just masked those over with sound. So is everybody feeling good? I think this group is almost entirely in Europe, except for us. Well, Dimitar is.
Peter obviously is not in Europe.
Right.
Yeah, no.
I'm in US.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Jennifer and Peter in the US, and we are in Asia.
Yep.
Everybody else is in Europe. So yeah, we have Craig, who's our Chief Product Officer, Dimitar is our Chief Development Officer, and Peter Harpending is actually our lead cryptographic developer and also our research lead. I think we can start now. If people join in a bit late, that's fine. They can also just watch this video after.
Sure. Um, so just to kind of give some a frame for anybody who wants to ask questions, I'll just give a very brief little slideshow that has a list of the things that we're working on and the order that they're likely to come out, with a brief description of each, and that's that, just to get the names in your head in case they aren't, before we start talking. So let me figure out what the name of that window is so I can share it. If this goes horribly wrong, apologies. Okay. Is that...
It works.
Okay, yay! It's visible. Technology. It's fantastic when it works, which is rare. So we've got logo stuff. So ongoing efforts. There is Fate Weaver that is already out. That's the contract call interface. Contract development, contract call, so on. Gajuauth, that's Dimitar's put an interface up for that. That's getting into commercial discussions like already, which is good. Gajumarket, which I think everyone's aware of, but maybe has not played with the test thing yet. Gajumobile, which that's my main effort right now. In addition to Cecille, who's got the mock, the UI mock-ups for that. I'm doing all the back end and then the final UI implementation. Rubicon that is the name for the replacement for TLS and DNS and the other networky things that underlie HTTPS that are not possible to secure. That we, in the last AMA, I had mentioned that sort of fell out of the effort to develop Gaju Express in a way that's genuinely secure against metadata capture. Gaju Pay, Capillary. So each one of these. So basically, what I just said. Fate Weaver is the Sophia smart contract interface. You can write a smart contract. You can deploy a smart contract. You can pull a smart contract from off the chain. It will compile automatically, and you will get a contract call interface for it. That Fate Weaver runs in the context of GajuDesk. So when you press that little function button at the top right of GajuDesk, that's Fate Weaver that pops up. That makes it so much nicer to mess with contracts. There's a bunch of additional features planned for Fate Weaver, such as managing projects of source code instead of just a single one-off contract file. That's probably the biggest one. There's a few other sort of maybe IDE friendly or interface friendly things that we'll be looking to do there. But the most important thing about it is that it's very, very easy to write a contract and deploy one and call one somebody else wrote after the fact, which has not been the case ever in blockchain. That's really nice how that turned out. Gajuauth, the point of Gajuauth is the way that we do login with Gaju mining and Gajumarket and all these different Gaju products where we don't have passwords. We just have a signature, a key authentication from, your wallet signs a message and that validates that you actually have the private half of the key. So you verified your ID to the other party and they let you log in and grant you whatever authorizations you're required within a system. Gajuauth takes that part of it and moves that out. It generalizes that so that using Gajuauth, you can log into any other system without using a username and password, just using your public key as your identity and logging in with your with GajuDesk or Gajumobile the way that you would for any other Gaju service. You should be able to do that to any website or any service, forum, service, social media, whatever. Anything that accepts OAuth 2 right now, anybody that natively integrates with a Gajuauth plugin or implements a Gajuauth validation scheme in their own backend, you'd be able to use Gajuauth for. What we're aiming for is a unified, the ability to provide a unified authorization or unified authentication across services, but not have the identities be controlled by a third party. You should be the one making up your own key. You should be allowed to make as many keys as you want. You shouldn't have to ask anybody permission to do that. It should not be tied to an email address. Those are fallible. They're always controlled by a third party, not you. This should be completely in your hands. So Gajuauth that's the move in that direction. It's a very important concept to be able to do that, to log into web services or in any kind of service using a public key. Gaju Market, very simple. It's the online marketplace denominated in Gajus. So you can buy and sell stuff directly in Gajus, and it's very, very straightforward. On the back end, making a marketplace that actually is based on a blockchain is less straightforward, which is why that's why no one's done it before. But that it works is really slick. So this is pretty nice. We have one remaining feature that needs to be added before we do the mainnet release of Gaju Market, which is the website part of Gaju Market needs to always be in sync with the chain. So whatever is true on chain is the absolute ground truth. And because of Fate Weaver, it's very easy for anybody to just make an arbitrary contract call. So we have to make sure that anybody who makes contract calls out of band, those contract calls get reported and pushed to the back end, and we need to add that little connection. That's about a week of work, roughly. So this is a priority issue. The reason that's not out yet, it's just prioritization because we have so much to do. But that is very close to the mainnet Gaju Market's really close to pushing that out. It's just a priority question. Gaju Mobile, that's the mobile wallet. The first one that we're doing is for Android. We are doing a port for iPhone or iOS, kind of in tandem with that. It's very likely that Gaju Mobile will, because the iOS version of Gaju Mobile is a Swift Apple kind of native app for Apple. That might wind up becoming the template for kind of a light wallet for Mac OS as well, because it's fully native in that ecosystem. So that may form the basis for a light, slightly different local, a wallet that's native to Mac OS. Rubicon. So this is a secure first-party network tunnel technique that replaces the combination of TLS, DNS, certificate authority systems, and so on in a way that is first-party managed instead of multiple third parties managing and pretending that they're being secure and acting in your interest. What this means is that everybody has learned that HTTP is no longer secure, or that it was never secure. HTTPS is the only way to do things. Well, if you get into the weeds with HTTPS, you'll find that the combination of DNS, TLS, and certificate authorities are also not secure. You're depending on a very tightly centralized group of privileged operators to not lie to you. Because we have a proof of work blockchain that works as fast as it does, it is instead possible for first parties to manage their own certificates and act as their own certificate authority, act as their own name authority, and you wind up having the way that consensus works for Gajumaru also solves the problem of decentralized network naming and self-signed certificate authorization and authentication. So Rubicon is a way to use Gajumaru as the locus of the distributed locus of source, and doing that, you don't have to worry about a DNS provider intercepting every DNS request that you make and figuring out what you're doing based on the thousands of DNS requests that you do make and fingerprinting what you're up to, because you can be making all of your network identity requests to be running your own Gajumaru node locally, and those requests never even leave your own network. Or they could be made to random public Gajumaru nodes. But there's no single location, which is the case with Cloudflare, Google, the combination of Cloudflare, Google, and a handful of other major tech companies pretty much intercept every DNS request. They know every IP that requested every DNS address, and based on that, they can figure out what you're doing without even reading the contents internally. In addition, any sufficiently well-connected actor, like a government, for example, if any government compromises any certificate authority, and there's a couple hundred of them, then they're all compromised because they're all given equal weight. So any certificate authority compromise equals a complete compromise of the whole system, which is kind of ridiculous. This was a big argument in the 1990s, and people forgot about this argument because we're like, it's too hard, we'll do it later. Well, now is later, and nobody wants to look at this. Rubicon's a way to actually fix that problem that had been deferred about 20 or 30 years ago. So that's what Rubicon is. Rubicon, we were not expecting Rubicon to be a thing. Rubicon emerged in the second half of Gaju Express development, when I started asking, okay, well, if we do this over HTTPS connections, the content is encrypted, but you're still getting all the DNS requests. Who's using, you wind up knowing who is using Gaju Express. You know roughly what the size of the messages are. You might be able to figure out a lot about that in terms of person A made the requests that identify that they're using Gaju Express. Now, if we follow that traffic, we see how big their posting was. Then we see another party come in also trying to go to Gaju Express, and they pull things at the same size, and you can track that down. You can kind of figure out who's talking to who, and that's not what we want in a truly private message or data transfer system. So how to avoid that problem gets into how do you make sure that nobody is intercepting the initial lookup requests to begin with, and that led to the development of Rubicon. So that's what that is. Basically, Rubicon, looking way down the road, the technique that Rubicon uses really should be replacing, you can tunnel HTTP over Rubicon, so you should really be using, we should get rid of HTTPS and use connections the way Rubicon does. You can do UDP, you can do streaming, UDP streaming, TCP streaming, any kinds of network connections. Any protocol that you're familiar with will tunnel over Rubicon smoothly. So it's a pre-negotiated connection style. It's really the way to do things, but it will obviously take time to catch on. So that's Rubicon is the way that Gaju Express will be connecting. In the future, other products we roll out will be using Rubicon as well. It would be nice if other projects would adopt that, but who knows? We'll see what happens with adoption later on. Gaju Express, it's a secure way to send files or directories as like archives to anyone who has a Gajumaru ID. So if somebody has a key, a Gajumaru ID on chain, they can tell you what that ID is, and you can send them data securely. And the service itself is paid in Gaju. So the sort of the postage stamp that goes on the transfer transaction is a spend transaction on the chain that the Gaju Express service can see, and that's how it decides whether or not to take the transfer or not. It's just paid in Gajus. This is integrated into Gaju Desk. So from Gaju Desk, there's a hotkey that you press, the Gaju Express interface comes up, and you can securely send files to people, and you can pay for that in Gajus. Just all right there integrated. Gaju Pay, it's a payment system based on Gajumaru. It's, if you have an online shop, it's got a shopping cart. You need to be able to accept Visa or MasterCard or whatever, or PayPal or something. All those different payment services have a drop-in widget that integrates with those, the shopping cart component of a web shop. Gaju Pay provides a number of plugins for common web shops instructions on how to write plugins for other web shops. And in addition to that, it has an interface that allows a brick and mortar shop, so a mom and pop store or a restaurant or someplace it's in the real world, not online, can use GajuPay to present payment requests to their customers with QR codes. They can pay them with Gaju Mobile from their phone directly, and GajuPay, one of the main value adds for GajuPay is that it keeps track of all the timing and the validation log and the kind of audit trail that is required to do business. So if you're a vendor, yeah, you get paid, but you don't want your waiter to get paid to his account. You want it to go to the company account. You want to know who the waiter was, though. You want to keep track of all these things. So all the little the accounting concerns that a business has, GajuPay keeps track of that stuff in the back end. It can export that data to the user being a business, a small business, or any kind of business user, and they can integrate that with their existing accounting system. So we're trying to make it easy to use blockchain for business. This is a huge gap in like the blockchain space. Everybody talks about NFTs and stuff, but nobody just says, oh, if a business actually starts taking payments on chain, well, we have to have it's not just that there's a record of it on chain. There's like, what was the fiat equivalent at the time? What was the actual time of the transaction local to that transaction, not local to the chain? Because you have these, if it happened on this day, the tax rate might be this, and the tax rate issues, there's sometimes threshold tax issues and so on that occur in business. So all the information necessary for an accountant to resolve those questions needs to be tracked. So that's what GajuPay does, is it provides that point of sale system that's smooth, in addition to keeping that back end data for you, so that you can, the metadata about all the transactions, so that you can reconcile that in your accounting system later. This is about, 70 to 80% complete already. The things that I've talked to up until now, those are the order that I'm going through these products is the order that they're likely to be released in. This one's about 70% complete. We have some UI things to solve with this, but the majority, the basics already work. We just need to make it more like user friendly. And a big part of that is, until Gaju Mobile comes out, GajuPay doesn't really make sense to push hard. So we have to get Gaju Mobile out for this to really fly. Same thing with Gaju Auth. Capillary. This is a really fun one. You've heard about the agentic economy, or the, I guess this also goes back to the Internet of Things, that you would want different autonomous actors on the network to be able to pay, request services from one another and pay one another. But the payment speed has to be very high, and the payments are often very low. So online services per service provision, transferring a file, sending an email, whatever it is, even watching a movie, very often network provisions are worth less than 1 cent. But international online credit card transactions often cost a couple of dollars to process at minimum. So there's a huge mismatch there. You cannot do sub-cent transactions if every transaction takes 15 to 30 seconds to process, and the overhead for a 1 cent transaction is $3. That doesn't work, right? So what Capillary is a very, very high speed, like thousands and thousands of transactions per second, party to party, in a way that's isolated and scales across. You could have millions of parties doing thousands of transactions per second with each other through Gajumaru state channels. So state channels are a very complicated subject, but one of the things they enable is this type of a service. So we're branding Capillary as a specific type of service built on this technology that's quite complicated, to simplify the proposition, because we know it's not going to work to try to teach everybody the details of blockchain sufficient that they'll understand how state channels really work. So you just collapse the proposition down to, Capillary is a way that you can do super high speed, massively parallel transactions in Gajus between machines or between, you can do it between users too, but users can't click thousands of times per second. But machines in particular, like AI agents, is where this is really going to hit. Can have requests and transactions, financial transactions, point to point, thousands of times per second, per pair of parties, over capillary. So that's what that is, and that is the end. So we're at the Q&A part. Thank you for listening to me run through those real quick. Stop sharing now. Okay. So
Okay. If anyone has questions now is the best time. We've got lots of people join in too while we were, yeah.
Well, I was going through the spiel. Yeah. So that's a lot of stuff, but the order that I went through those is the order that they make most sense to release, because the first ones are dependencies for many of the later ones. So
Craig, can you go back to your first slide? I can't remember the first one you presented.
Sure. Let me make sure I don't put the wrong thing up again. Okay. Let's see.
That was Gajumaru. Yeah, I don't have it on my list.
This one right here?
No, Fate Weaver. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
That logo, we're still playing with logos. Those are,
yeah.
I really like the Gaju Market one. Gaju Express is pretty cool. Gaju Pay Capillary. A lot of these are cool. Okay. But some of this is still up in the air. So if you see, the names are more important to remember than the specific image. We're still playing with this.
Okay. One question on Gaju Express.
Yes.
How do you manage file size? Can you, I don't know, send the 2 gigabytes file across the network? Yeah. Can you detail a little bit? How does it work?
Sure. So Gaju Express has a backend that's off chain. Like all the big data moving, or the actual data moving around does not go on chain, right? What happens is, if you want to send a file, let's say you're going to send me a 2 gigabyte file, like legal documents or something that we really don't want, or a patent application, right? That's like one of the big scary ones. If that leaks, your patent's dead. So you open Gaju Express and you put my key or my we have names that alias to keys, so you could put either one of those in as the destination, just like my email address, right? So you put my ID in as the destination, then you pick how long do you want this data to be alive for me to pick, like what's my window for picking it up. Then you pick either the directory or the file, doesn't matter which one, that you want to send, and it's going to pack it up and find out it's going to figure out the total size local to you right then. Then it's going to make a request to the Gaju Express backend and say, hey, I want to send a file. Well, so this is where it uses, this is the first place it uses Rubicon, is it looks up Rubicon, says, where does Gaju Express live? What kind of crypto does it use? What's the port I should connect to? What's the protocol, all that. And it gets all that in a single, one request, asks, what is Gaju Express? And it gets a complete definition back that it details exactly what all the parameters are to open a connection to Gaju Express. And then it opens a connection that's completely blind. Nobody can, it looks like gibberish to the network, because you already know all the parameters to contact Gaju Express. So there's no leading indicator of who you are. There's no plain request to open. It just starts off, bam, with an ephemeral public key saying, hey, connect to me with, the way you expect. And if it doesn't work, then that's not really Gaju Express. So that connection opens, and we've already put my destination, me as a destination. You've got the file selected. You want it to be open for like a week, for example. I think that's the default, is 1 week. And you say, hey, Gaju Express, I want to transfer this 2 gigabyte file to this ID, and I want it to be alive for a week. It needs to be available for him to pick up for a week. Gaju Express looks at the number of bytes and the amount of time, and then it's got a cost factor, and it will give you a quote. And so on your screen, you're going to see it's going to cost this many Gajus to send that, to have that 2 GB file alive for 7 days is going to cost this many Gajus. And you say yes or no. If you say yes, what will happen is your Gaju desk wallet will generate a spend transaction in that amount to the address that Gaju Express says to pay with a tag that Gaju Express understands added to it, like the data payload of the transaction. And you'll sign that and it will go onto the blockchain. That is your payment to Gaju Express. Once that payment has gone through, Gaju Desk watches the chain and it says, okay, that transaction has been processed. It's on chain now. You have the transaction hash. It tells the transaction hash to Gaju Express and says, hey, check this hash. I paid you. Gaju Express checks the hash and goes, oh, I have been paid. Okay, cool. So I know how many bytes I'm supposed to expect and how long I'm going to keep them alive. So it starts receiving your transfer from that moment up to the size that it promised to handle for you. And once that's been transferred, the connection's done. Gaju Express is holding it on its side. It's encrypted with a key that only the receiver can decrypt, right? So like that's kind of the magic of this, is that only the receiver is able to decrypt this encrypted file. Later on, sometime within this 1 week period, I open Gaju Desk. Inside of Gaju Desk, I open Gaju Express, and there's a thing like check and see if I have anything pending. It says, hey, you have a 2 GB file waiting. I go, cool. That's what I was expecting. And I download it. It gets downloaded to me. It's then deleted on the server. That's complete. That's finished. The transaction's finished at that point.
Okay. So there's quite a lot of your technologies behind the scenes. There's probably the grids protocol. There's smart contract in order to send, receive. There's quite a lot of stuff behind the scenes, right?
Yeah, there's a fair amount behind the scenes, but every step is exactly what I just told you. There's actually no smart contracts involved in this particular one.
Okay.
It's just because we have this special property where, because Gaju Express asked you to send it money, and it knows why you're sending it money, right? And then you say, I sent the money, here's the transaction hash. Both that side and you can verify exactly what happened.
Yeah.
And so we don't need a smart contract in this case.
Okay.
So it's very straightforward in that sense. It's also very lightweight in terms of what happens on chain. Now, what happens off chain is like this giant transfer, blah, right? But that doesn't have to burden the chain. So it works pretty good. The magic of the way that the public private key pair system works allows us to do this in a very safe way, fortunately. So this is like one aspect of blockchain that like doesn't ever seem to get used, but it's like this really cool feature of like blockchain accounts that nobody's really taken advantage of in this way. And I don't know, well, I know why. The hype is pushing in every direction except for utility, right?
How would you compare this to what's this blockchain allowing you to transfer data and Filecoin? No. Is that correct?
Filecoin is one that does things like that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, go on. Just if you can compare both, if it makes sense, of course.
Sure. From my understanding of Filecoin, and I may be mixing this up in my head with another project because we haven't reviewed these in a while, but Filecoin is primarily based on trying to keep data alive in a distributed storage system, as opposed to keep data secret and anonymized. So people try to use it in an anonymized way, but it's like, I believe that and Dimitar or Peter, correct me if I'm wrong. I believe.
Yeah, that's a distributed storage system. That's
correct.
I
think it's a distributed storage system, and it's very different from the purpose of this. Okay. The intention here is to keep data completely private until you want to reveal it. So in particular, like law firms really don't want to use
that's different.
Right. So this is for private data transfer, not for keeping data alive with like proof of storage.
Not for storage. Yeah, that's correct.
It looks like Filecoin is just a payment system for IPFS.
Right.
That was
Yeah,
IPFS.
exactly.
Yeah, that
It's
was
IPFS.
IPFS.
Okay.
Sorry, I was
Yeah.
looking for.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
thank you, Peter.
Yeah.
with IPFS, you lose. Well, once you upload the stuff, you absolutely lose control over it, and it's copied around different machines. It's split into parts, so it's highly likely that no one is going to correct all the shards and retrieve your data, but it's not impossible by any means. And then there is no way for you to see if your data had later on been deleted, because there can be copies everywhere.
Right. I guess it's kind of like Freenet in the sense that it shards data out and shares it, but they've got a payment. There's a proof of storage system to try to keep data from being permanently deleted from the system. Unlike with Freenet, where if any data is not requested for a long time, it falls out of the global cache and just disappears over time. It's a cool system. It's just not for the same purpose as this. It's just not the same use case.
Okay. Yeah, sure. Thank you for clarifying. So in terms of roadmap, you said so Fate Weaver would be the first one.
Fate Weaver is out right now.
Okay.
So
and until you release Capillary, how long would it be? How soon would it be?
How soon? Ooh, that's a tricky question.
No pressure.
So Fate, well, it's almost a joke in software. Well, in this type of software, where like half of what we're doing is exploratory and nobody's ever touched this before. You're doing like half of a research project live, but it's commercial, and this feel like when, and you're like So Fate Weaver being out now, that's a relief, and it makes everything else faster. Gaju off. There is Dimitar's the ground truth on this. But we've got a demo set for that already out. There's commercial deals like in the works at the moment for that, where it's not like it's not properly like productized yet. But that's almost like that's sort of the next step with any dealer on Gajuauth is to decide, like, we have two different clients and we set up a Gajuauth site on this client, and then we set up a similar thing on another one, and then we have like the network service, provision version, and we see what's similar among these, and then unify on that. So that's sort of like in the product architecture phase, which is close to completion for Gajuauth, in that sense. Gaju Market, that is, it kind of depends a little bit. Again, it's a priority question, but I think Peter and I might, I would like to put Gaju Market out like, I'm not going to make a hard promise on this, but I would like to say like a couple of weeks at the outside. I would really love to put like kind of a crappy version that just works at all on mainnet this coming week would be my preference. We'll have to see if we get there that quick. Gaju Mobile we're within about a month of releasing that. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you in terms of when the Android one's going to be released for beta and how long after that we're going to have the iOS one out, but we're looking at like, weeks to a month or two for Gaju Mobile. Rubicon and Gaju Express. Rubicon will probably not be publicly documented the way that I want it to be documented. That's going to take maybe 2 weeks of work, and we're just not going to have time for it prior to pushing Gaju Express. Gaju Pay, I would expect that to be about 2 months after Gaju Mobile is like like Android Gaju Mobile, then iOS Gaju Mobile. I would look at Gaju Pay as being out like, if Gaju Express is out like 2 weeks after that, then Gaju Pay would be out like maybe 2 months after that. And then you get to Capillary, and the big question mark around Capillary is what's the primary use case? Is it going to be OpenClaw instances, or are we going to be will we need to stand up of a front end for different AI provider backends to be able to do this for them. There's still some questions about Capillary in terms of how to provision the service. We know how to, if it was Gajumaru services talking, like QBQ services talking to QBQ services, it'd be really easy. But how third parties want to interact with Capillary is this big question mark still. So I think the most realistic path for Capillary would be we write like a capability for OpenClaw to demonstrate it and have our own front end to an AI provider's back end. Like, provide a charge interface for who, I don't know the names of the AI code things right now, but for Claude
They change every week.
Yeah, I don't like Claude or Gemini or whoever it is. So that we could demonstrate the Gaju denominated charges moving over Capillary and then pitch that to those AI providers as this is the best way to represent tokens, because you could charge per token. With the puck is so granular on chain that they could actually charge per token, which is that's like what they really wish they could do, but they don't even believe they can do that, so they've given up on the idea. If we could demonstrate to them that they can do that, then I think it'd be kind of a sale it's a pitch two directions. It's a pitch to the people that want to use AI stuff or use agents that have to pay for stuff on their own, and it's a pitch in the other direction to the AI providers, that if you use this system, you can actually solve your micropayments problem. That if we solve that, then all these other weird things like we have a big inversion in the network economy right now where it's free to post. Like you can go on any social media and just post for free, right? But that made sense back in the old days when content was scarce. But now, like, everybody has bots, and like every PSYOP has 50 million bots, and it's all free to post for them too, right? So we're just buried under garbage and no humans talk to humans anymore. If you go on social media to argue, 90% of the time you're arguing with robots already. It's silly. If you flip that around and you say, well, you got to pay one Gaju to post or one Gaju to reply or something like that, all of the bot programs out there get defund, like they just implode under the financial strain instantly. And suddenly you're talking to humans again, that's the place that we want to go, right? So Capillary has a very, very powerful potential to change the way that we do online interactions and the way that the internet or network use in general is monetized. Because the reason that we went with this, like ad services, so you go on social media and it's free for you to post, but then other people are going to read your post, and access to those posts is monetized through advertising, right? That's like the basic model. There's no distinction. There's zero distinction between an online advertising network and a signal intelligence operation.
We're using Google Meet right now.
Yeah, we're using Google Meet right now, right? And so everything that we say in here is being logged by an AI agent. Every one of our accounts is tracked across the whole internet, and the whole purpose of that is not to figure out what nefarious things we're up to, but to serve us ads. And they want to figure out every intimate thing about your life to be able to serve you ads. Because that capability exists, governments go bonkers because they start thinking, oh, wait, this capability exists. We have to co-opt that because our Constitution says we can't do these things, but they're so delicious. We must have them. So they wind up co-opting industry to do this stuff. And the whole problem unravels if you just make it, if the platform providers are paid every time somebody posts, they have no incentive to serve ads. Then they don't have an incentive to spy on you. And now you've fixed like 90% of the surveillance state problem that we live in right now. So Capillary actually has a very long tail on it that's really cool, but bootstrapping it as like what's exciting right now that's going to get into the public and motivate people to adopt Capillary is probably something kind of, agent or AI shaped. And so that's kind of the direction that we're going to focus the initial adoption effort. But the long tail on being able to do microtransactions for real is huge. It's massive. And it's so big that it changes the entire relationship between, the public and the people who have position to kind of wiggle their fingers into everything so far. because their incentive has been ads, but then once that capability exists, in geopolitics, we have a very important phrase to understand, which is capacity informs intent. So your intention is not to spy on your people to start with, right? But once the capability to spy on your people exists, now your intentions change because you can. So that having that capability be funded by ad networks has been a very toxic thing over time. And it's a very corrupting influence. So, and for the same reason that like undebasable money is important, this is also like probably equally important. But that's the long tail on sort of the capillary effect. The short term is that driving adoption is probably going to be something like AI, or related to AI. So anyway, you said how long is it going to be before this comes out? We're looking at maybe a month or two out from Gaju Mobile. Well, that puts Gaju Pay out maybe 3 months. That puts capillary out maybe, I don't know, 4 to 6, something like that. So we're looking at, there's some stretch time there. And that time estimate that I just gave you is based on there not being distractions or hiccups or anything blowing up in the way. And so far, everything always blows up all the time. So take that with a shaker full of salt. But that's the ordering is probably more important than the exact timing on these, because the later ones depend on capabilities provided by the earlier ones.
You look like an army behind this, don't you?
What's that?
You look like an army behind all of these projects. So I don't know.
Yeah, well, I know
that I know it's not the case. I would love to for the project, but
oh yeah,
impressive.
That's why I'm trying to be so like, I'm the CPO and I'm like, man, this is a lot of stuff to do. So as much as possible, we have to be very like each product needs to do one thing and do really good at that one thing. So we can be very narrowly focused and get that out, and then go on to the next one and be narrowly focused and get that out. We do have some backtracking to do for product improvement and platform support. Like we've learned more about how the OS, Mac OS management should work. We've learned more about, Windows is on this continuous sort of self-degradation course, and mitigating that is a big issue. And we need to spend some time. So there's these other side quests we have to go on to make sure that the products work smoothly for anybody at all. And that detracts from time too. But the only thing that makes any of this possible is making each product be as narrowly focused as possible until we get some market traction, because we're so small.
So, Craig, I'm not sure if you were looking at the text chat while you were talking a minute ago.
Revu, yeah.
Revolution, Revu. Sorry if I
don't know how
screwed
to
up your
say
name.
Yeah.
I'm American. We don't.
Yeah, don't worry about it. We're not supposed to be Revo.
Revu. Okay, I'm sorry. He says, you guys should market capillary as the solution for the dead internet theory.
Yes.
I mean,
absolutely.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, that's sort of the other half of what you were saying about the it kind of being a way for we're kind of thinking about AI agents in terms of they've switched recently to token-based billing, but again, it still keeps track of it every month and then bills you at the end of the month, and it's not
or you prepay. And you have to prepay a large amount because
right.
They can't refund anything to you because the transaction fees are too big. You can't prepay $10, use 5 of them, and then have them refund you because it's not economically viable for them, just because the way payment systems work. So, which makes it a hard sell for like a newcomer, like, oh, I want to try this out. Well, I want to try this out, but I have to buy $100 of tokens. Like, come on. That's kind of sucks.
Or they have to give you a bunch of stuff for free, which introduces all of these spam problems.
Right.
And nothing is more expensive than free.
Exactly. So that's making it trivial for you to like open. If I could tell my agent, hey, you have up to $50 worth of Gajus to spend, so go do that. But the second I don't like this, the channel shut down, it's all gone. Any unused portion is just still back in my account. That's how state channels work. And that's exactly what you want for anything that's sort of like not prepaid, but like preloaded payments. So you've got a limit that you set, but anything unused is still yours. That's how state channels work inherently. So it's a really, really nice, like on the technology side, it's a very smooth fit to do something like capillary on top of state channels. But yeah, dead net.
So if I understand correctly, regarding Gajumaru, it's Dimitar who's the lead on this, right?
Yes.
So, okay. So if I do have questions on this, I can reach out to you directly, Dimitar, correct?
Yes, of course.
All right. Yeah, I'm thinking about, I've shared with Greg some, I would say Greg suggested me to talk about Gajumaru to my employer, which is DocuSign, by the way. So I like to pitch a little bit some of Gajumaru details to some people at DocuSign. I'm not enough a technical expert, but I'd give it a try.
Well,
yeah, that's a great lead.
Mm-hmm. Like
sorry,
it's a great lead.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Like imagine if when you sign something on DocuSign, it's not just DocuSign ultimately verifying it because the user didn't have their own private key, but if the user could use their own private key in a first-party managed way, DocuSign providing their guarantee of what happened, you've got a stronger validation of the intent of the original user on top of what DocuSign provides.
Yeah,
and that's good.
Yeah, there are two ideas. One of them is to give another opportunity for DocuSign users to log in into the platform, okay, as a sender or as a signer. So that's the first other option in terms of user authentication. And then the other use case would be to add another piece of or another ID evidence on top of everything that is already collected and verified by DocuSign.
Mm-hmm.
These are the two use cases that, would require to be, would need to be explored. So we'll see. It's just, like you all guys, it's just a question of time, time to spend on. Because DocuSign keeps me busy quite a lot over the past few months. So there's only 24 hours in a day.
Yeah, unfortunately, sometimes we all have that sense that we wish we could freeze time for like 2 years and catch up.
See you in 2 years.
But it doesn't work like that. I wish it did.
Thank you, by the way.
Sure.
Okay. Does anybody else have any questions about any of these products or anything in general?
Well, I have a quick question on Fate Lever. I just opened it in the function in my desk, and can you just do a quick walkthrough? Like it says new, and then it opens a couple files. So you would.
Right. Yeah. Let me. Let's see. I'm sharing that. Let's stop sharing. Oh, this is a multi-window thing. Let me see if I can. Get you something here real quick. Here.
You did share our last meeting, like from your personal profile, that hello world thing. I did read through that.
Right, yeah, so basically if I let's see if I've got I need to. Sorry, I have way too many windows going over here. And that's a huge window. I've got one of those giant monitors and it's like thing open maximized. That's not cool. Okay, so just to give you an idea, let's go to well, that's too big. Sorry, sizes are all crazy. Okay, so this is oh, sorry. Moon runes fail. Now it's in ingots. Okay, so if I want to buy this bench, just to give you an idea here, I'm going to copy this, the contract ID for this, the sale of this weight bench is right here. So this is inside of the, I'm sorry, for context.
Craig, are you?
Yeah, are you sharing your screen, Craig?
Oh, my goodness. This is just,
You've
sorry. As I said, I would mess that up, and I just promptly did. Yeah, hang on just a second.
You just say imagining the weight bench is an exercise for the reader, for the audience.
My apologies, guys. We're gonna infinite screen here for just a second. Is that on for you?
There we go.
Okay. So, all right. So this is like a test version of Gajumaru. This is the weight bench in question. So the contract ID for the sales contract, there's a smart contract on chain that represents the sale of this bench. This is the contract ID. And if I here we get, okay, so if I open Fate Weaver, which it opens on another screen because of course it does. Let me pull this over to you. Okay. If I want to open, so this is a contract editor and this is deployed contracts. If I want to edit a contract that's on chain, I can click open and then open it from hash on chain. And that just gets me the source to the contract, but this is not the deployed version of it, right? If I go to deployed contracts and load from chain and put this is the same, whoop, I lost my guy. This is that contract address. We don't just load the contract source from the chain. This lets me read and see exactly what the contract was, which is not a thing that you get to do on any other chain. Because it's got the source, it also builds out the call interface for this. So if I want to check the price, just for example, the price that the web backend knows about is 0.4 gajus, right? Now that's going to be some large number of pucks. If I want to check that, I could do the price query, which also there's one caveat to dry runs right now, which is that your account has to be known. Oh, this one is. Okay, cool. Sorry, I'm tabbing through all these. I have so much junk open. So if I submit the dry run, I get this many pucks. This equates to, so it's some huge number, like 4 septillion pucks or something, is 0.4 gajus. And that matches what we see here. So we know that the on-chain data matches the web data that we've got. That happened really quick, but what happened was I submitted a call to the chain to ask the contract what the price was. That's how the price query works on chain. So no other chain system provides this ability to pull source code from the chain, build it immediately, have a call, like have all the different functions that are in the contract just listed on the right side with a call or dry run. Dry run means you're not updating the state. So if you just want to ask the chain for some information, dry run's what you want to do. So that's why we have two buttons here. this looks quick and simple, and that's sort of covering up this problem in general, in blockchain in general, which is that doing what I just did is extraordinarily difficult everywhere else. It's frustrating how hard that is everywhere else. So Fate Weaver, basically what that lets you do, if I copy this to editor, I could go in and I can edit this contract and make a new version of it, and then click deploy and deploy it to the chain just right away and have a new version on chain and mess with it immediately. That's not a thing that you can typically do. You can do that in like fake test environments, and then those fake test environments have a lot of problems because they're the ways in which they're fake come out to bite you eventually. This is really, really slick the way that all this turned out.
The demo you just saw doesn't look like much, and that's kind of the point. That's why it's such a big deal, is that it just doesn't look like much. But that's actually what you just saw is a huge deal, and it's a huge. What he just did is like, you know, a 30-minute project if you're trying to do something similar on Ethereum.
Yeah, just to get the price query.
Yes.
Can I ask you guys something?
Mm-hmm.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So you said you can deploy this on chain, right? So anybody can do this.
Yeah.
Anytime, right?
That's right.
Is there a way? I don't understand exactly the technicalities behind it, but is there a way to spam the chain with useless contracts and make it like not usable anymore, something like that?
Not
yes. That's what
kind of, but that's where gas comes in. That's probably what Peter was about to say.
Yeah.
Okay, so so you have a prevention for this to happen, basically, because you would have to pay so much that it doesn't make sense. It's too expensive.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So
I'm thinking like if everybody can deploy anything on chain, and you know the Murphy's law, right?
Oh yeah.
Well, that's why if you have some kind of thing that prevents that. You know?
Well, so this is actually the reality for every blockchain that's public. Anybody can do anything anytime they want. The only reason that every chain is not already crushed is that nobody has made it easy and reasonable to do. The defensive mechanism for people not spamming the chain is that you actually want to have a throughput limit on chains. So the mempool should have like a limit. And the reason is that if you can only do, let's say, 900 transactions per second or 300 transactions per second or 100, whatever it is, whatever the transaction per second limit is for a single chain. And remember, this is not uniform because the Gajumaru is a chain of chains. There's lots of, or it's a network of networks. So every associate chain's got its own thing going on. But on Groot in particular, the mempool, like it's kind of like the inbox. Can only be processed at a certain maximum rate. And that means that there's a pricing function for how valuable is it worth it to you to get your transaction on chain, and you're going to raise your gas price that you're willing to pay. The amount that you're willing to pay to get your transaction on chain goes into price contention, and it prices out the spammers because there's not much point in trying to spam a chain with junk if it costs a bunch of money. Spam is only a reasonable strategy if the spam is free.
Okay. So it's a little bit similar to how Bitcoin works, right?
As far as gas and gas price concept works, yes, it's very similar. There's one additional element that we have, which is the duration. This is not fully implemented yet, but it's part of the definition of Groot. Is that we don't store all data forever and ever, amen. Because you can't do that. That's the infinite library problem, right? Nobody can store all data forever. Let's see if I can get, sorry, I need to roll this back a little. Okay. We can't store everything forever and ever because nobody can. There's no such thing as infinite storage. Blockchain attempts to do that. Ethereum attempts to do that, and so on. We have a garbage collection horizon, and how long something is supposed to stay alive on chain is also paid for. So there's a data size dimension that you have to pay for to get data on chain. That's the only dimension that applies to Ethereum and Bitcoin gas costs currently. We also have a time dimension. Both of those explode once you get beyond a certain point. So they're both kind of exponentially increasing. So once you get beyond a year or two of storage time, the time dimension explodes. Once you get beyond a certain number of kilobytes in terms of data storage, the data dimension explodes also. And they explode together, so they interfere with each other. It gets like overwhelmingly expensive to try to store large stuff on chain in a way that would block the chain from functioning. Very, very, even at a very low gas price. So that's a defensive measure. And also over time, you would wind up having whatever data you paid for to get on chain. If you didn't pay for it to be alive for a long time, it'll wind up getting sorry, Cecille's being attacked by her cat's tail. That was funny. So that the cost winds up not being reasonable for a spammer. There's other reasons you might want to attack a chain in that way, but this is not. That's not a thing that winds up being reasonable in the base case. You had another question, it looked like?
I don't know. From my part, that's it for now. Thank you.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I saw like an icon go up the screen.
Yeah, it was a clapping icon. I like the solution you had.
Oh, it looked like the raised hand thing.
Yeah, I thought it was a raised hand. And then I was distracted because I saw like a cat's tail go doo, doo, like on Cecile's face, which was very nice. Oh my goodness. Okay.
This is mine.
Yeah, everybody.
Nice.
Am I the only one that doesn't have cats?
Yeah,
Yeah, but shortage
where
of
are your
cats
cats?
where you are.
Okay. So do we have anything
Okay.
else?
Yeah, any other questions? Okay. Well, I guess that's that then. If anybody else has any questions, now would be a great time. Otherwise, we can end this call and we'll probably have another one after, like maybe in a few weeks.
Yeah, we can do these regularly just to, as things come out, or as things are realized, or as things come out, or improve, or get worse, let us know. But as questions come up, please join these or have your friends join them. Anybody that's got a question, if you know somebody's got a question, be like, hey, there's a good chance to talk, straight to the source coming up in a week or two. Let them know. We'll be happy to talk with anybody.
Maybe one more, if I may.
Sure.
Do you have any piece of documentation on every single project on the GitHub or somewhere else that can be shared? Or is it like too confidential? I don't know. I'm just curious to read some documentation, like just to from the GitHub, for example.
Sure. We have quite a bit public on our Git. But I guess what most of it's on the Git is like code.
Well, okay.
It might be a little bit rough.
Makes sense.
But we've got a bunch. We had a problem over the last year with kind of a failure to do very much brand expression, and actually that's what Cecille is catching up with right now. And thank goodness she arrived to dig us out of our hole, because we're terrible at that stuff, and she's been doing really good. So that I would ask her, I know it's going to happen. It's tomorrow. I'm going to get a call from her. She'd be like, hey, remember that thing he was talking about? We should work on that right now. So there's a difference.
Plan to do that.
Yeah, we have plans to do that. We've been trying to dig ourselves out of a hole with narrative, in terms of like the sort of the narrative arc of like are we pitching the whole Gajumaru because that's a lot to try to get people to understand? Or, what Cecille's gotten us more focused on is like, what's a thing that you can do that you can describe succinctly? We should put a name to that and then describe that thing, which is exactly what a branding person is supposed to tell you to do. But we're terrible at thinking in that way, and we're just now catching up. So we do have some things. I think we have several like blog posts about a bunch
Cecille.
of these.
Yeah.
So yeah,
but we are working on like getting web pages up for each product. So basically, like all of the basic information, and then hopefully the like documentation, technical documentation would also be somewhere, and that would link from those web pages. But it is taking a bit of time because there's only a few of us. But yeah, we're working on getting all of that out as soon as possible.
Yeah, no problem. Okay, that's it.
Okay. In that case, well, thank you so much for everyone for coming and asking questions. And we'll post the link to this video as soon as we have it uploaded, probably next week sometime. And also we'll post when we're having the next one. All right. Okay. Thank you so much. And I hope to see you in the next one. All right. Bye.
Thanks, Greg and team. Bye-bye. Thank you very much.
Bye.